If you're watching this and you don't already use a password manager, then please stick around. I've always been a big believer of using a password management app to keep track of all your individual passwords. So it's all secure, all in one place, and you're minimizing the risk of reusing the same password everywhere, which of course is a really bad idea, because if just one of those sites gets hacked, then you have to change your password on absolutely everything. Today we're going to cover off a question that, to be honest, I don't get asked that often enough. What is the best password manager for you? Not for businesses, not techies like me, but individuals, muggles, people, normal people. Let's go. Hey friends, welcome back to yet another comparison. Today we're focusing on your own personal passwords, or rather how to securely store them, because something we all need to get better at is our own online security, and having different passwords for every single website is a big part of that. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos for comparing the best video conferencing app or the best online storage system, the links are above and below. We'll probably revisit those and redo them later this year, so subscribe if you want to watch out for those. But we're going to stick with the same format as those by focusing on a few key areas for each product that we're going to review. So the products that we're going to focus on today are 1Password, Dashlane, LastPass, Bitwarden and Keeper. And you can jump to the timestamps to go straight to each section if you just want to jump around. Like last time, for each of those products we're going to focus on those key areas for each product: security, reliability, ease of use, the price of course, any major frustrations experienced, and any extra features that come with each product. Firstly, I am already using 1Password, but I need to change. I've been basically using an older version and I have to subscribe for the new version. But before I subscribe, of course, I want to look at all of the available options to make sure I'm getting good value for money. With all of that fluff said, let's start off with one I've actually been using as my day-to-day password manager for the last pretty much 8 years or so. Let's talk about 1Password. Now, 1Password launched in June 2006 and has always been known, I would probably say, as the choice to pick for Apple users, which is what attracted me initially. The Mac app is really slick and smart, and the iPhone app integrates with iOS really nicely, with no real complaints there. But it also supports Windows 2. Over the years, of course, this is something that is just assumed with every password app and a must-have for everyone. And I'm glad that 1Password deliver this experience well across all platforms now. On to security, there are two aspects that I want to focus on here. First of all, how secure the product is in itself, how it protects your own security with the likes of two-factor authentication, and also features like warning you if you reuse passwords or if your password has been leaked online to warn you to change it. And 1Password has the ball covered in this fairly well, in all honesty. It supports 2FA protection for your account, has end-to-end encryption, and their Watchtower feature will warn you of any compromised accounts, reused passwords, weak passwords, insecure websites, and you can also use this to manage your 2FA clients if you wish, although I manage that through a separate app anyway. Reliability wise, and according to their own status page, it shows the first mention of any form of outage was in January 2019, which only affected their website, and an issue again in 2017, and that's a pretty good track record. At least here I can speak from personal experience. I've never been locked out or couldn't access my passwords online or offline, and just nothing. So no reliability issues at all. For ease of use, it's a bit of a difficult one to answer here because I've been using it for so long now, but I find 1Password really easy to use. If you want to log into a website, all you do is install the Chrome or Safari add-in, visit the website you want to log into, and then it will also fill the username and password right there, and it's the exact same experience on mobile too. It also holds more than just passwords. It includes debit card and credit card information if you'd rather store them here instead of using the likes of Google or Safari's own system. But one more thing worth adding here is I love that it has the feature to display saved passwords in a larger format, which actually counts the number of characters. So for those of you needing to log into banks or other systems where you need, say, character number 3 from your password, character number 12, when you're working with really, really long passwords, it's really difficult to know in your mind without counting which character is which. Well, this does make it easy, so thanks. Price wise, it's nice and simple, $2.99 per month for one account, and then $4.99 for a family of up to 5 people. In terms of frustrations, I can honestly say that I don't actually have any frustrations with 1Password right now. The only reason I'm looking to move away is because I think when you're subscribing to a service for the foreseeable future, it's worth probably checking out the competition. Extra features now outside of simply storing your username and passwords, and as mentioned already, the Watchtower feature shows you any compromised, vulnerable or weak passwords, but it also shows you any passwords stored for insecure websites, so those using HTTP and not HTTPS. Oh, and also a worthy mention, 1Password supports custom fields, so for any websites that need a telephone password, a PIN code, or anything beyond just a username and password, 1Password can do that. Keep your eyes on this one, as I discovered this is actually really quite rare. 1Password can also be used for your two-factor authentication, something I haven't actually used since I have a standalone app that does all of that for me, but sounds good. It also has 1 GB of secure storage and shows you any items which are about to expire, such as your cards, passports, driving license, or other memberships. And lastly, it also has a pretty unique feature called travel mode, which will physically remove certain passwords from your device when you want to travel with it and not run the risk of taking some passwords with you. Not something I would personally use, and likely something that's more for business use, but it comes with a personal plan, and it's kind of cool in a James Bond holding the world's secrets kind of way. Hi, Future Pete here. I actually contacted 1Password to ask a question about a specific feature and mentioned I was doing these videos, and they came back with an offer of 25% off of your first year of a subscription to 1Password, which is actually really annoying because whenever I sign up for a service, I'll always look for like a discount voucher or whatever I can get off basically. And with 1Password, there is never anything you can get off. There's no discount vouchers anywhere on the internet that I could find. So yeah, quite annoying. But equally, if you wanted to sign up to 1Password, then there'll be a link in the description below that will give you 25% off your first year. So thanks 1Password. Anyway, back to the other Pete. All in all, for me, it's a great product and checks all of the boxes, but I've been using it for so many years now and I don't know what else is out there in the market. So with that, let's move on to see if I can find any better. Next up, Dashlane. Dashlane was founded in 2009 and released their first version in 2012, and since then has become one of probably the leading password managers worldwide. I actually switched to Dashlane from 1Password for about 3 to 4 days, as I was going to fully switch because I liked it so much, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And overall, Dashlane is certainly polished, but as far as security is concerned, 2FA is provided as standard across all of the plans. It's encrypted with pretty much the industry standard level of encryption, or government grade, if you want to call it that. And it also has a feature that monitors your passwords and tells you if they're reused or insecure. More on that later too. Reliability, doing a quick Google News search for Dashlane outage, and it showed nothing really of note. But what is of note that at time of shooting this video, Dashlane's own website reports that there is a current issue which has been ongoing since 16 days ago and is still in the investigation stages. But it's also worth noting that checking through their status history, there are multiple reports every single month of issues, but not all of them would directly affect you, as it might be issues with just the web app or a specific feature of the app. But to be fair, with none of those seemingly being significant, and none of them would actually affect access to your passwords. In terms of ease of use, it's really easy to use. For day-to-day usage and no issues to really report, it fills in passwords quickly and easily, and the interface is simple, clean and easy to navigate. So honestly, I think this is a really, really strong contender to move me away from 1Password. Onto the mobile side of things again, zero issues. It's quick and seamless and integrates with Face ID, and it just fills in the password without extra things to tap. Just, would you like Dashlane to fill in this password? Yes. Face ID to verify. Boom. Done. That makes me happy. Pricing wise, Dashlane comes with a free plan which can only hold up to 50 passwords and access it from one device, which pretty much means that most people will need to upgrade to the premium plan at $3.33 per month. They also have a family plan at $4.99 per month or $59 annually, which gives up to 5 other people their own Dashlane accounts. And this means that it comes to more than 1Password, but it is worth saying that it's fairly easy to come across some discount vouchers, which will probably reduce this to be more affordable than 1Password. Extra features, well, when it comes to protecting your own online identity, Dashlane says that it has a dark web monitoring built into the system, and you can add a number of email addresses to monitor. However, it doesn't really make this clear whether this just is using the same "have I been owned" password breach notification service that lots of others are using, or if they really are doing some proper dark web monitoring. Also, like 1Password, it shows your compromised accounts, reused passwords, and any passwords that you have in the database which are weak. Dashlane also gives you the ability to share passwords without needing a family subscription, and they even have an emergency contact feature that allows you to predefine an emergency contact who can gain access to your account in certain situations, and you can define how long you will have to grant or deny them access before they're given access by default. This is actually a really smart use of technology, because with online accounts covering everything from life savings, investment accounts, credit cards, even social media, it's great that you can pass this responsibility to someone when you really need to. With major frustrations, this is quite specific to my use case here, but where I've been using 1Password for a while, and it actually crops up on quite a few of the competitors. But in 1Password you can add notes and custom fields to any password for any websites, perhaps that have some extra login information, particularly of course that include banks where they have the likes of a password, a PIN code, 2FA code, maybe a telephone banking password, and I added all of these fields into 1Password. However, when doing the export and import, none of this came across. Even though the import said it was all successful, I couldn't even identify which passwords I might need to go and manually check, and the username and passwords were all brought over, just missing the extra information. So with that said, Dashlane doesn't support custom fields for any password, so every password has to conform to the same standards they've set, which is typically email address, login, password, URL, and then minor things like notes and categories and naming them, which I find really restricts the use. In summary, Dashlane is something that I really tried to switch to, so much that I actually paid for the year's plan in advance, but I ended up cancelling and getting a refund after those few issues I experienced, because however much I like the product, if I can't easily move my data into it, then that's a pretty big showstopper to put the onus on me to manually go through potentially hundreds of entries to figure out which ones had custom data and custom fields. But if you are starting out from scratch, then this might actually be a good option for you. On to LastPass. Now LastPass is probably one of the other big names that you'll likely hear everywhere. Once again, 2FA is an option for security, and it does have some features to look after your personal security, to identify weak passwords, reuse passwords, and any leaks onto the web. Onto reliability, doing a Google News search for LastPass outage, things get a little interesting. January 2020, LastPass is in the middle of a major outage, followed by an article that states LastPass quietly admits it suffered an outage it first denied, which basically means that loads of people reported an issue accessing their account, LastPass denied there were any issues, and then later they updated their status page to say that an issue had been resolved. Also, FYI, the outage was on the 19th of January 2020, was for 3 days. Just wow. Also, and because security is of course a major concern when you're using any password manager to store all of your password information, in 2015, LastPass was hacked and did advise their customers to reset their master passwords. Now, just to be clear on this, no data that we know of was exposed, no master passwords were leaked or taken as part of this, but as they had access to, say, your password reminder, as well as some other details that were taken, then it could have made it easier to guess your master password. Moving on. In 2017, there was a vulnerability that exposed user passwords in their Chrome and Firefox add-ins. And in September 2019, Google identified a vulnerability in the Chrome and Opera browser plugins. So I'll let you make your own mind up on that one. General use is, as I expected, pretty much the same as all the other apps we've reviewed, and mobile client-wise, really smooth, no issues at all. It integrates with Face ID, which makes filling in passwords a breeze as you don't have to repeatedly enter your password. So yeah, I actually have no complaints about the mobile experience. Price. Now, one thing LastPass has got going for them here, and what's probably keeping them in the top 3 spot, is that their free pricing tier isn't really restricted. You can access unlimited passwords on any device, which is really nice. You can then pay $2.30 per month to upgrade to premium, which gives you 1 gig of encrypted file storage. You can also share your passwords with multiple people, and you get a few more advanced 2FA providers. They also have an emergency contact system similar to Dashlane in this tier, which is a nice addition. And then it's $307 per month for their families plan, which gives you 6 premium accounts. So all in all, the product is cheap. Well, it's free, but if you want a little more storage, then you pay for it. In terms of extra features above and beyond just storing your passwords, it does have this security challenge feature, which when you run through, it scans through everything and gives you a report and a score, kind of like a credit score. Once again, this gives you the same reused, compromised and weak passwords that the other apps provide, which is neat. I just don't like the fact that it's hidden within the app, as you have to click on the More Options button at the bottom and then head to Security Challenge. Whereas products like Dashlane show you directly in the navigation, and 1Pass will even show you the numbers of each without you having to click into the main security report to look over what's happening. And now we get to the frustrations. And unfortunately, there are a few. First off, custom fields. LastPass doesn't let you set custom fields, so you're stuck with URL, username, password, and notes, which can be pretty limiting for some websites. But I actually looked into custom fields for LastPass, and it was a feature that they included, badly, in a previous version, but around 2019 they released an update to their product which completely removed these custom fields, and from reading up, also coincided with a 50% bump in their subscription price. Other things around ease of use, I'm always a fan of actually installing each app, and once you do have the app installed, well, it doesn't show you everything. Here are your passwords, your secure notes, addresses, cards, bank accounts. The security challenge is hidden away down the bottom, and for features like enabling 2FA, you're forced back to their website, which is just, come on now. All in all, I'd probably sum up my LastPass experience as disjointed, but okay value if you're looking for a free password manager. Given that this is one that I think is probably most used and has the most hype, well, if you are considering LastPass, then I would suggest that you probably wait, and instead let's look at our next option. Bitwarden is a relatively new contender to the market, debuting in August of 2016, but it's held its own against lots of the other password managers here, and so I think it deserves a go to see how well it fares when I put it up against arguably the other industry leaders. In terms of security, well, right off the bat, 2FA is built in as standard, and you can upgrade to their premium version to unlock additional options such as the YubiKey and Duo and a few other providers encryption wise. Reliability, well, from a reliability perspective, uptime, availability, all of that, I can't honestly find any information about outages anywhere or anything. Now that's either because their service is really, really reliable or just nobody uses it. Well, that's a lie, slightly. I did find one outage in May 2019, but it was actually an outage with Microsoft Azure, which Bitwarden uses to host their platform, so it kind of wasn't really their fault and their outage. But other than this, literally there's 2 pages of results on Google News when you search for Bitwarden outage, and none of those talk about Bitwarden, so high five to you guys. Ease of use, well, yeah, it's pretty good in all honesty. Actually, I was surprised with how well this works. Day-to-day actual usage, logging in, you click on the button, tap the login, and it logs in. Straightforward. So no complaints there. And the app for Mac is really, really clean, much more modern than the browser version, weirdly. It kind of looks like an early version of 1Password with a nice dark mode. But the browser version does look kind of basic, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I guess I'm probably just nitpicking now. One thing I will say here is a massive, massive plus point compared to others is that when I imported my data, it actually did pull in all of my records that had custom fields. Bitwarden does support custom fields, so if you want to store information such as security questions, you can do that even in their free product. So yeah, that's really nice. Over to the mobile experience. Again, no surprises here. It works really well. It integrates with Face ID, no delays or issues here. Spot on. Pricing wise, it's free for unlimited passwords across all devices, 2FA protection, and has a fairly unique self-host option, which we'll get into in a moment. You can upgrade to premium, which gives you 1 gig of storage, additional 2FA logins, health reports and priority support and that kind of stuff. Family plans, of course, are also an option, but I'll be honest, I'm not sure I get it. $1 per month for 5 users, unlimited items. You can share between those 5 users, health reports, 1 gig of storage, self-hosting, which sounds like really good value for $1, but I don't get if that's a add-on or a separate plan. If I try to sign up for a free trial, it says I need a personal account first, which I have. But when I try and find the link to add the family plan, that it's nowhere to be seen other than upgrading my personal plan to a premium plan for $10. So perhaps that means you have to pay $10 for premium and $1 for families, but does that mean you then need 5 other members to have the $10 premium account too? Please leave a comment below if I'm just being dense. Am I being dense? In terms of extra features and outside of the general password storage, once you upgrade to premium, then you can get access to password hygiene, which is pretty much the same as the other apps, tell you about your data breaches. And you can also use Bitwarden as your 2FA tool as well, which, much like Authy or Google Authenticator, they can just store all of your 2FA credentials. One final feature here, and I won't dig into it too deeply because it can get very techy very, very quickly, but you can install your own Bitwarden server locally, so you don't have to rely or trust some cloud storage provider to store your passwords. It is fairly involved, and I would say it's reserved for those techies amongst us, but it's a nice feature to be able to offer for those who want to look after your own data. Overall, Bitwarden is actually a really strong contender here. It's got a free tier that rivals the likes of LastPass, but supports custom fields, which LastPass doesn't anymore. Its import process was a breeze. Well, this is a damn good option, and I would probably put this up there as one of my top picks of all of the products so far. Damn good going. Just try and figure out the premium tier pricing first. Anyway, on to our final contestant, Keeper. Security-wise, Keeper is great here. No complaints, it's got 2FA built in and a standard, and it asks you to set this up during the sign-up process. Woo! Absolutely none of the others, from what I recall, asked me to enable 2FA by default. So extra bonus brownie points to you for this. It also scores you on your own security, which is a kind of nice feature, and shows you your weak and reused passwords. So yep, pretty cool. I like that. Reliability seems pretty solid here. Checking their own status and history pages, they show little to no outages for quite a while now. And searching Google News for Keeper outage or Keeper offline, well, it just brings up junk that's not related to Keeper at all. More results about football and goalkeepers and that kind of stuff, which kind of makes it quite difficult to tell. But looking over their Twitter streams and a general search around, we look pretty good here. Onto ease of use. I have to give it to Keeper. Their sign up was really, really smooth. You sign up, it asks you to download their importer app, which works on Mac. But then all this did was kind of pull in a few from my Mac keychain, and I had to accept a few prompts, which I felt a little bit uneasy about what I was actually granting you access to. But it's a nice feature to pull in your passwords from the existing browser or the Mac keychain. Once you've done that, it asks you of ways to import from anything else, and all the usuals are supported. Once that is done, it takes you to the web interface where you can just click on the Get Started, and it takes you through installing the browser extension, adding your cards and 2FA and all that kind of stuff, which is great. Now, I have to hand it to them. This sign-up process is probably the best of the bunch so far. Oh, and also a note here about something that stood out. It seems to be one of the only Windows apps that's actually properly signed and stored in the Windows App Store, so another bonus brownie point there. Mobile experience, well, from my iPhone there is one issue in that when you're prompted to fill in a password, it asks if you want to sign in using Keeper. You hit yes, and then it actually pops up a Keeper window where you have to tap fill, whereas all the other products that I looked at just filled in the password without that extra pop-up step. Pricing wise, well, there's a free tier for one device with no backup protection, that they call it. Sounds pretty risky and very limited. Or you can upgrade to unlimited, which is unlimited devices, unlimited passwords, cloud backups, sharing, support. That comes in at $20.99 per year. Note here that if you click the Take Me to Upgrade button, it defaults to a page that will try and charge you over like £100, and that's because it defaults to adding in 3 years of Keeper Unlimited at £62, which isn't a bad price for 3 years, to be fair. But then it adds on 10 gig of secure storage at $6.99 a year, Breach Watch at $14.99 a year, and well, I really don't like this approach, like defaulting you to taking everything that you now have to remove instead of making them optional extras you have to add along the way. There's also a family plan for $44.99 a year, which gives you 5 accounts with 10 gig secure file storage, and you can then upgrade to include their Keeper Chat and Breach Watch for $89 a year, but you can also just get the chat and dark web monitoring as a standalone product if you wanted. Oh, and all those prices are excluding tax. Any major frustrations of note experienced with this app? Well, frustration number one, you can store credit card information in Keeper, but I actually did have some stored in 1Password already, and that's disappeared completely. So once again, it's a case of importing the data, but doesn't tell you what it's imported or failed or missing. And something that I noticed here is that some items that I know have custom fields on them just don't appear in Keeper at all. Whereas at least in the other apps that I was using, the main usernames and passwords came across. But for me, the frustrations centre around being locked out of features on the free plan. I completely get it. You want to upgrade people to paid plans, But to keep browsing around the product and be repeatedly hammered with pop-up messages telling me that these are paid features and with a button that says turn on now, when all it does is redirect to the website to upgrade, it's a bit disingenuous, especially when I was on the free trial, and it just kind of feels like everything I do is trying to make me spend more money. But there are better ways than to keep ramming it down your customer's neck each time they click a button in your app. And to finish off my major frustrations, probably my biggest is their Chrome add-in. I noticed that every single time I closed my Chrome browser, it would log me out of the add-in, even though I had the app open and signed in already. So every time I opened Chrome, I'd have to log back in again. Kind of frustrating. So much so that I had to go back and check what the others did to check this wasn't unique to this product. And, well, it was. 1Password locks itself but lets you unlock on the Mac with Touch ID or just re-entering the password. Super easy. Dashlane stays logged in. Bitwarden was probably the closest where it locks the account, so you needed to just re-enter the password, but with Keeper it actually fully logs you out. You can subscribe for an extra $14.99 per year to their Breach Watch service, which monitors the dark web for breached accounts. But something I don't like in particular was how it tries to trick you into upgrading. To use Breach Watch, it will scan your passwords for free and then tell you have, say, 30 passwords at risk with a button to turn on now. And all that does is redirect you to the upgrade page. I don't know, it just kind of really grinds my gears when people sell you on fear, and if a button says turn on, it should turn the blimmin' feature on. If you need to upgrade, then the button should be called upgrade now. You can subscribe for an extra $14.99 to Keeper Chat, which protects your communications with full encryption on all devices with 20 gig of chat storage. Why? Unless you can get everybody you know to subscribe to a Keeper Chat subscription, it's kind of pointless, because it's only secure when you send to someone else with Keeper Chat. And you can also add secure file storage, 100 gig for $6.99, 50 gig for $23.99, and 100 gig for $54 per year. Though I'm not sure why you'd personally use to choose one of those services at those prices than with properly stored data with the likes of Microsoft and Google and so forth. There is an emergency access feature which is pretty handy. Much like others we've reviewed, it will protect your digital legacy in the event you are incapacitated or not there anymore. You can designate someone else to have access to your vault after a specified period. Once again, you can specify how long they'll need to wait to get access, and you'll get an email to notify you that someone has requested access to give you a chance to respond and say no. But, well, if something's happened, then it does its job, right? In summary, for Keeper, I'm, well, not really there with Keeper. Their sneaky tricks to get you to upgrade still frustrates me when I'm browsing around, but they do have some great features. The app is clean and simple, it's reliable, secure, and their big bonus for me is that they are one of the few that have really thought about the whole sign-up process. I think had they not had the repeated prompts to upgrade and didn't have the bug in Chrome, I would have probably felt a lot differently about this product. And that brings us to the close of our review, which certainly opened my eyes to what is currently available of all the products I've looked at. You're probably possibly wondering which product I'm going to go for. And well, this is going to be really disappointing. Personally, I'm actually going to stick with 1Password because for me, I value a lot the way 1Password just works. Everything is accessible from within the app. There's no faffing back and forth with the websites like LastPass, and whilst it's a little bit more expensive than Dashlane, which to be honest does come close, but actually if I wasn't already with 1Password, then I would be taking a serious look at Bitwarden for its sheer value, how well it works, and pretty full feature set. LastPass for me just hasn't got anything unique that I can speak of just yet. Unless I've missed something. They seem to have a lot of marketing budget, and I've seen quite a few sponsored videos by them on YouTube, but I guess I probably won't be getting one of those now. Anyway, that is just my take. Yours may be completely different, so don't forget to comment below with any questions or what your experience of each app is, because whilst of course I try to cover everything and research as much as I can for these videos, I do know that it's kind of extremely difficult to be 100% accurate. So please don't hate me, don't flame me. Just write a nice, kind comment below so I can update the description accordingly. That's all from me. I hope it was useful. If it was, then please don't forget to like the video. If you did, subscribe to the channel for more of these types of reviews coming up. Hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos are posted. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.